"It's just a little something to help you relax," she said sweetly, sliding the glass toward me. Janine didn't even blink. Her eyes stayed locked on mine like nothing was wrong, so I smiled, nodded, and switched glasses when she turned to adjust the oven timer. "My name is Tucker Ray. I'm 34, and I've been a full-time freelance filmmaker based out of Portland for the past 8 years. If you've ever watched a nature documentary with aerial shots of elk migrations, or seen an indie short win an award for best cinematography, chances are you've seen my work. But to my in-laws, I'm the guy with the camera. They're from a different world. Well-manicured lawns, matching patio furniture, and careers that come with business cards and dental plans. Janine, my mother-in-law, hosts Sunday dinners like she's curating a political summit. Everything's timed, plated, and stiff. Her husband, Warren, talks about bonds and mutual funds like they're characters in a soap opera. They don't ask about my work. They ask how long I plan to do this filming thing. My wife, Aubrey, is nothing like them. She's the reason I stayed sane through it all. We met in college, her studying marine biology, me hustling film gigs on Craigslist. We built our life from the ground up, slowly, deliberately. But the deeper she and I fell into our rhythm, the more out of place I felt around her family. Warren called my career a side hustle at our engagement dinner. Janine once asked if I ever considered something stable, like working weddings full-time. I'd laugh it off, smile, sip my wine. I never let it get to me, not out loud. But those comments, they build. 2 months ago, Aubrey told me Janine wanted to host a special dinner, just the 6 of us. No reason given, but her tone was careful, like she was passing on a warning without saying the words. I shrugged, said I'd bring wine. I'd just returned from Alaska, filming under brutal conditions for a climate awareness project, and my back was still sore from hauling gear through snowpack. But I showed up. Janine greeted me like always, warm smile, tight hug, and then that glass of wine. There was something in her eyes that night, something rehearsed. I couldn't prove it yet, but every bone in my body told me that wasn't just a drink. And here's the thing. She thought I was naive, just the harmless creative who married her daughter. But I'd seen enough through a lens to know it's never the quiet moments that lie. It's the polished ones, and I'd just pressed record in my head. I wasn't always behind a camera. My first job was unloading delivery trucks at 5 a.m. for a local grocery store, editing skate videos at night just to stay awake. My gear, rented. My first drone, bought used from a guy who insisted it mostly worked. But over the years, word got around. I filmed cold-blooded hunts in Yellowstone, coral bleaching off the coast of Oahu, a viral climate protest that got picked up by a national network. I never had an agent, never chased fame, just trusted the work to speak for itself. Every shoot taught me something: how to stay invisible, how to capture what people miss, and most importantly, how to notice what doesn't belong. That's what makes you good in this field. You see what others overlook. Problem is, people like Janine and Warren don't see people like me. Not really. To them, I'm background noise, B-roll, a footnote in their daughter's highlight reel. And that's what made her mistake so dangerous. She thought no one was watching. It started with whispers, not literal ones. Those came later. I'm talking about the kind of silence that hums when you walk into a room and the energy shifts like someone hit pause on a conversation. Sunday dinners got weirder. Janine would offer to pour my drink instead of letting me serve myself. Warren, who normally couldn't shut up about hedge funds, suddenly took an interest in my diet. Then came the questions. How long were you really gone for that Alaska trip? You ever worry about safety out there? Is that even insured? Things no one had ever asked before. Not like that. One night, I stepped out to take a call from a producer and came back to find Janine whispering with Aubrey in the hallway. They stopped when they saw me. Aubrey forced a smile, but I saw the shift. Something about the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the same nervous tick she has when she's lying to herself. The next week, I got a text from my brother-in-law, Mike. "Hey, just checking, everything cool at home?" I didn't know what he meant, but the timing was strange, especially because we hadn't spoken in 6 months. That's when I started pulling back, watching more, speaking less. I stopped leaving my gear at the house, began keeping copies of everything in cloud backups under an alias. Nothing dramatic, just caution. It all came to a head at Janine's birthday dinner, the one where she insisted on cooking everything herself. No outside catering, no help. Family only, she said with a tight smile. I should have trusted my gut when she handed me that glass of wine and said, "Just a little something special, Tuck. You've earned it." But the room was off. Something about Warren's posture, the slight delay in how he picked up his fork. I watched him take a sip from his glass, the one I'd quietly swapped with mine. Janine didn't notice. Or maybe she didn't want to. Either way, it was too late. She thought I'd play along. That I'd keep being the polite, quiet, artsy son-in-law who looked the other way. But I'd already hit record, and I wasn't just watching anymore. I didn't tell Aubrey what I'd seen, didn't mention the way Warren stumbled slightly as he got up from the table, or how he excused himself to the bathroom mid-dessert, looking pale and confused. Janine brushed it off. "He gets like that with red wine sometimes," she said, barely hiding her tension. I smiled, nodded, took another bite of cake. What she didn't know was that I'd already had the liquid in that glass tested. A buddy of mine from a dock shoot in Arizona works in a toxicology lab. One quick overnight shipping later, and I had answers she never thought I'd look for. I didn't call the police. I didn't confront her. Instead, I started collecting. Photos, dates, credit card statements from family dinners. A few offhand comments she'd made about her insurance policy that suddenly felt a little too specific. I synced everything to a private folder, labeled Backyard Project, in case Aubrey ever stumbled on it. I wasn't sure yet if she knew, if she was part of it. But she'd stopped asking where I was going during the day, stopped checking when I'd be home. That silence said more than a confession ever could. Then came the message from Warren. "We need to talk, privately, tonight. Don't tell Janine." I stared at it for a long time because when the man who drank your wine starts to panic, you know you're getting close. It was a Tuesday morning when the email landed in my inbox. Subject line, Film Director Inquiry, the Patagonia Project. I almost deleted it thinking it was another cold pitch. But then I saw the name, Dr. Camille Shore, lead environmental researcher for the International Nature Syndicate. I'd met her 2 years ago while shooting a climate feature in Chile. She'd remembered my footage, said it still stuck with her. They were assembling a new team for a global docuseries on environmental collapse. Big budget, full creative control, and they wanted me as lead director. I just sat there for a moment staring at the screen. I hadn't told anyone I was looking. Hell, I wasn't. But they'd found me, and they knew what I was worth. That same afternoon, I got another message. This, one from Warren. He wanted to meet alone at a small cafe across town. I showed up 5 minutes early. He was already there, jittery and red-eyed, nursing a half-empty coffee. "I think Janine's trying to kill me," he whispered, not even waiting for me to sit. I raised an eyebrow. "That's a hell of an opener." He slid a napkin across the table. On it were scribbled notes, life insurance amounts, recent medication changes, and dates. Some of them matched the ones in my folder. He hadn't seen my footage yet, but it didn't matter. We were aligned now. At least on one thing. She always hated that I left my first wife everything, he muttered. Changed the will back in March. She doesn't know yet. He looked up at me like a man who just realized he was swimming with sharks in his own pool. "You have proof?" he asked. I just smiled. That evening, Janine called. "Hey, sweetheart, could you come by tomorrow? I need help with the TV wiring." My hands itched to answer. Instead, I blocked her number. I wasn't playing house anymore, Aubrey noticed. She asked if I was okay, said I'd seemed distant. And I looked at her, Not with hate, not with suspicion, just curiosity. "Would you tell me," I asked quietly, "if you knew something was wrong with your mom?" Her eyes didn't move. "Wrong how?" And that was enough. 2 days later, I accepted Camille's offer. 6 months in Patagonia. Full travel coverage, new gear, real pay. I packed my things, signed the contract, and left a note in the shared drawer next to Aubrey's vitamins. "Your mother's plan didn't work, but someone should probably check. On Warren." Before boarding my flight, I sent one final email, anonymous, encrypted, time-stamped, and backed by footage, records, and signed affidavits from Warren's lawyer. It went to the State Fraud Division. I wasn't angry. I was ready. Let her wonder why the family dinners stopped, why Warren started sleeping with the door locked, why the insurance agent started calling. Let her play innocent. I'd already hit export. It didn't happen all at once. That would have been too easy. First came the calls from the insurance company. Routine audits, they said. Just verifying some claims. But Warren already knew better. He called me the day the agent left their house. "She asked about my prescriptions," he muttered. "Said they were flagged." I didn't ask for details. I just told him to get a lawyer. One that didn't golf with Janine's cousin. Next came the whispers at her church. Apparently someone had slipped an anonymous envelope into the collection tray. Inside were bank records, screenshots of late-night transfers, and an anonymous note that read, "Protect the ones who can't protect themselves." Aubrey moved back in with her sister 2 weeks later. Said she needed space. I didn't ask what triggered it. I already knew. By the time Janine tried calling me again, I was 6,000 miles away, filming condors in a cliffside valley, unreachable by anything but satellite ping. But the voicemails came anyway. "Tucker, please, we need to talk. I know things look bad, but this wasn't what it seems." Then a day later, "You don't know what you've started. This could destroy everything." And that was the moment I realized. She wasn't afraid of the truth. She was afraid people might believe it. Last I heard, Warren filed to reverse the will adjustment and placed Janine under financial conservatorship, citing malicious intent. Her sister confirmed it, said the house might be sold to cover legal costs. Funny how quickly a side hustle turns into leverage when the floor caves in. I didn't celebrate, didn't toast to revenge. I just backed up my footage, labeled it winter exposure, and sent a teaser cut to Camille. The voiceover I used for the trailer. Sometimes survival isn't about power. It's about patience and knowing when to stay silent until the mountain crumbles on its own. 3 months after I landed in Patagonia, I got a message from Camille. "Are you sitting down? Check your email." I opened the file. It was an official subpoena addressed to me, asking for confirmation of authorship on a video file labeled Incident 6A, Domestic Exploitation and Attempted Fraud. It was my footage, but I hadn't sent it. Turns out, Warren's attorney had been quietly working with a private investigator, one who tracked down every trace Janine had tried to erase. Phone calls, altered documents, a string of donations made to a foundation that didn't actually exist. The receipts all led to one source, a shared checking account in Janine's name and one Daniel Probst, a man already under federal scrutiny for elder fraud. Janine wasn't just trying to poison Warren, she was trying to frame his confusion as cognitive decline, so she could take everything, the house, the policies, the pension, and I'd caught it. On camera, accidentally, the footage of her smirk when she poured the drink, the way she hovered behind his chair, the delay and how she answered when Aubrey asked, "You okay, Mom?" I never planned to weaponize it, I just wanted to protect myself, but now it was Exhibit A. The investigators reached out, FBI this time. They'd been watching Daniel for months. He had a pattern. He partnered with women in financial distress, helped them isolate older spouses, then liquidated everything. The documents I'd archived, plus Warren's reversal of the will and my time-stamped security footage, cracked the case open. I gave my statement over a secure call in a small hut, wind howling against the walls like the ghosts of old. "Secrets. You've done more than you know," Agent Patel said. "Because of your documentation, we're uncovering a network across 3 states. There are 6 other victims, elderly, alone, gaslit." I stayed quiet. "Did you know what you were capturing?" she asked. "I had a feeling," I said. But I wasn't sure who the villain was yet. News hit local stations 2 weeks later. Portland socialite involved in financial exploitation ring. They blurred the faces, but everyone in her circle knew. Churches stopped calling. Her volunteer boards dropped her name from their sites. Even Warren's golf club suspended her. "Membership pending investigation." Aubrey emailed me. Just a single sentence. I didn't know. I stared at it for a long time, then closed the tab. Camille offered to fly me to Paris for the international screening of our documentary. Front row, Q&A with journalists, red carpet, my name printed on posters. For the first time, people were listening to my voice, not just looking at my footage. And still, I didn't post a thing. No victory lap. No, I told you so, because vindication isn't loud. It just lingers, like a camera that never stopped rolling. Back in Portland, I didn't go back to my old apartment. I bought a workshop instead. It sat on the edge of Forest Park, an old print shop with cracked windows, thick walls, and enough space for me to breathe. No neighbors, no noise. Just the hum of pine trees and the occasional hawk overhead. I converted half of it into a studio, the other half I turned into a training space. Cameras lined the wall, tripods, mics, lenses. But what made it different was the bulletin board, right above the light switches with one sentence printed on a white card: "Record everything, especially the silence." I started offering mentorships, quietly. No website, no big launch, just word of mouth. Young creatives, especially the ones no one listened to. People like I used to be, overlooked, underfunded, full of stories and no roadmap. One of them, Lena, came in shaking. Said her uncle had taken credit for her project and blacklisted her in their agency. She didn't want revenge, she wanted proof. I taught her how to document, how to build without being seen until it was time to be undeniable. Another Jaden had footage that exposed safety violations on a local construction site. He didn't trust the system. I didn't tell him to. I just helped him set up the lighting for a clean testimonial, showed him how to track metadata. These weren't just lessons in filmmaking. They were lessons in power. Meanwhile, the documentary with Camille blew up. Streaming rights, awards, invitations. But I stayed home for most of it, sent video messages instead of showing up in person. People called me mysterious, low-key, grounded. Truth is, I was just tired of applause that came too late. I kept in touch with Warren but never saw him again. He emailed once a month, always short, always respectful. I didn't hate him, I just didn't trust silence anymore. As for Aubrey, she never asked for forgiveness, and I never offered it. Sometimes growth means letting the wound stay visible. The studio grew. We installed soundproof booths, backup servers, and a small lounge area with secondhand couches and a neon sign that read, "Stay sharp." The kids loved it. They'd ask about the story, the one from the documentary, the one that started it, all. I'd just smile. Some stories don't belong to us anymore, I'd say. They belong to what we build next. It was a Thursday when the call came. Blocked number, calm voice, professional, polished, nervous. "Mr. Ray, I'm reaching out on behalf of Evergreen Media Group. We'd like to discuss a potential collaboration, maybe something more long-term." Evergreen was the parent company behind several of the production houses that had ignored my emails for years. The same ones that said I was too niche, too raw, too unpredictable. Now they wanted me to lead a new division, something about documentary integrity, real-time crisis storytelling. Basically, they wanted my name on their logo without admitting why. I listened, took notes, then asked the question that always changes the tone. Why me? The rep hesitated, then admitted, "Because your name is clean. Your work has weight. People trust what you build." There it was. Not fame, not status. Trust. I didn't say yes. Not yet. The next week they flew me to Seattle. Glass tower, catering, decks full of fake candids and buzzwords. "Authenticity is trending," someone said during the pitch. I didn't flinch. I just opened my bag, pulled out a flash drive, and played the teaser cut of a student project Lena had directed 2 weeks prior. No filters, no music, just her voice narrating the truth about her story. The room went silent. "I'll lead," I said, "but on my terms." I laid it out. Full autonomy over my team. No brand interference in message or delivery. 20% of every project's budget redirected to fund grassroots creators. And no use of my name for PR without written approval. They blinked. Whispered. One of them asked if I was willing to compromise a little. I stood up. "You don't get to bend truth and then ask me to edit it prettier." By Monday, they signed. We called the initiative project Shutter. A unit built for resilience, for exposure, for voices with no agent, no funding, and no safety net. The irony? They offered me the very power they once denied me. But I didn't take it as revenge. I took it as proof. Because the system doesn't break when you beat it. It breaks when it realizes it needs the people it threw away. They held the event at the Fairhill Plaza downtown. Same building where Janine used to host her charity luncheons. Same carpet. Same floral centerpiece smell. But this time, I wasn't there as Aubrey's husband. I was the keynote. The invite came from Evergreen. They were launching Project Shutter officially and insisted I make the opening remarks. I almost said no. But something about stepping back into that building on my terms felt right. As I stepped off the elevator, I noticed the receptionist freeze. Her eyes widened just enough before she remembered to smile. "Mr. Ray, welcome back." I nodded. No need for small talk. The ballroom had changed. New lighting, bigger screens. But I could still picture the table where Janine once asked me if I ever planned to grow up and get a real job. I walked past it without a second glance. On stage, I didn't talk about revenge. I didn't mention names. I spoke about resilience, about how documenting the truth, even when no one's watching, is the purest form of integrity. The applause wasn't loud, but it was steady, real. After the event, a younger filmmaker approached me, nervously holding a notebook. "Hey, I'm just getting started. I don't have fancy equipment, but I've been watching your work. Your silence speaks louder than most people's shouting." I smiled. "Good. Then you're already ahead." Back at the parking garage, I took one last glance at the plaza entrance. 2 security guards stood out, front. One of them looked familiar. It took me a second. Kyle, Janine's old building manager, the one who once ignored me mid-sentence to answer her call. This time, he nodded first. I nodded back. No need for anything else. I slid into the driver's seat, turned the engine, rolled the window down just enough to let the cold air in. Didn't feel like revenge. Felt like alignment. Some people build legacies with plaques. I chose tripods. The workshop became more than a studio. It became a place people came to recommissar. Not for glamour, not for likes, but to tell the kind of stories that changed the trajectory of someone else's life. We started a grant program, small, but real, funded by a percentage of every deal I signed. No big press release, just quiet, messages sent to people I believed in. Jaden now runs a safety watchdog channel with over 80,000 subscribers. Lena just premiered her first full-length doc in Toronto. She didn't thank me on stage, she didn't have to. Sometimes I walk through the studio at night when everyone's gone. I look at the cables coiled neatly, the microphones labeled, the photos pinned to the corkboard. There's a quote someone scribbled next to the light switch. Truth doesn't shout, it just stays standing. Legacy isn't about being remembered, it's about making sure the next voice isn't silenced. I never needed them to admit they were wrong. I just needed to keep building until the truth didn't need defending. Turns out, when you create something honest enough, long enough, even silence starts to speak for you.